do whatever makes you smile, because that's what you're going to effectively lean towards. And you're just going to be naturally good at it because you like it as well.
Welcome to Phys Biz with me, Aaron King, a podcast for exercise physiologists and health professionals wanting to grow and scale in business. Welcome to Phys Biz, and with me today I've got Rhea Mercado, who's a voice of reason in allied health, podcaster, course and workshop leader, mentor, coach, injury management consultant. And did I miss anything there? You've got a few things going on. It probably is.
Yes. That's why I think collectively I've just referred to myself as a healthcare humanist from here on. It kind of encompasses everything that you've just said, plus some.
I think it's important for people to know what healthcare humanist means and why it's the case, because there's a lot of different things going on. And obviously, what do you have going on in the EP space at the moment? You're an injury management consultant. You've got your own podcast, Intelligent Rebellion. So I guess we'll start from square one and say, well, what are you doing in the EP space at the moment?
Causing a lot of trouble by the sounds of it, actually. No, I think, look, if we take a step back, I've been an EP, I believe, for as long as you have, Aaron, which is a long time ago. And I've seen the beautiful, amazing evolution of exercise physiologists. And to think that back in the early 2000s, one other person was working in the giant geographic area that I was working in, and we were still trying to figure out what exercise physiology was. So the space that I've sort of accidentally found myself in is, as you mentioned, hopefully a bit of a voice of reason, also a voice that might be a little bit different to what is out there at the moment. And I think I've again sort of found myself in a space where I'm just trying to call out the BS. We have this amazing community of exercise physiologists, and we're kind of all battling the same battles. And that is recognition of our profession. That is even just recognition amongst one another or within the larger allied health space and the medical space as well. So my work really is, how do I put it? I think my work really is now is helping to raise voices and helping other people to raise their voices. And the mission of the Intelligent Rebellion is effectively to speak up and contribute our vision towards a better future. And that future looks different to lots of people. Now, in the sort of the day job, sort of bread and butter space, I am a workplace rehab consultant, and I do dabble into injury management as well. And that is very much return to work plans. That is very much doing worksite assessments and helping people who have sustained a workplace injury return to work or find the most direct pathway back to their employment.
Yeah. Is that something you've been doing for a while? How did you find yourself in that space?
I followed my feet, really. I think it's interesting because I know we're talking a little bit about journeys and about people's journey, especially in this podcast. And what I find most intriguing is I came to a point where I kind of just did what I felt was intuitively correct or what felt really right to me at the time. And so I live by this idea of do whatever makes you smile, because that's what you're going to effectively lean towards. And you're just going to be naturally good at it because you like it as well. But I did start graduated out of uni back in the early 2000s. There was no such thing as an exercise physiologist, as you are aware of. So I actually built a personal training business. So I founded a company called Kaizen Group Fitness Solutions and built that as a personal training business. And as all the Medicare stuff came through and all the work cover stuff came through, that's when I really entered into that space of clinical exercise physiology. Then the epic 2009 exercise physiology crash happened, and I found myself pretty much having to find a job and supporting myself. But I've been self-employed since I was 22 years old, so pretty much straight out of university. And I kind of then really fell in love with the workers' compensation space because I felt like it gave me more space to do really good work. And that real biopsychosocial model that everybody talks about is the workers' comp space. As a rehab consultant, I feel like allowed me to really explore that a lot more than a clinical treatment provider.
Yeah, because it is very different depending upon which space people want to go into. And some people find themselves in that space because the opportunity arises, and other people really want to go down that path. So it's really good to hear that you really wanted to go down that path and you found it most enjoyable. And you did mention something earlier about the crash of 2009. I don't know if that was the same for me, but I have found that I made a job for myself because I couldn't find one. And that was the way to go about things a few years ago. And I do find that the EP space is building up and picking up, and more opportunities are there, but it can still be a lot more and a lot more recognition along the way. But I started Fit Clinic because I
Mhm.
was like, oh, no one's going to employ me. I can't find a job that I want that is secure.
Yeah.
So I might as well make my own. And I probably gave myself the most insecure job at the time because I made my own. But it's obviously developed a number of years down the line into something because I have no plan B. So plan A just better work, really, at the end of the day. Yeah. You've obviously got your podcast as well. So Intelligent Rebellion. So tell us about that.
Oh, look, I think it is exactly what it says. It's about really trying to reframe the way that we look at things. I think it's also challenging the status quo, challenging the hierarchy, and asking, why do we do things the way that we do? And is there, in fact, a better way? Is there a more efficient way, a more effective way? But again, it always comes back to intuition for me. Something just, I always ask myself, well, that doesn't feel right. This one makes more common sense. And it's really been quite pragmatic. I think one of my superpowers is I'm really quite a pragmatic person. I could say I do have a lot of common sense. And I think, well, why are we doing it this way? And so the Intelligent Rebellion is always about just talking to people who are asking questions. Now, we don't have the answers to everything because we just can't have the answers. And that's not the point. The point is just to open up conversations and spark and ignite these conversations that people are actually having on the side. So interestingly, the Intelligent Rebellion, I do have to give credit to two other human beings, Rebecca Maclad and Amy Rose, who are two very good friends of mine, who they coined definitely the Intelligent Rebellion, the title, The Intelligent Rebellion. And so all credit is due to them, but it definitely did explain everything that I was feeling at a very particular moment in my life. And it's kind of just taken off. And we actually thought, oh, we'll do maybe 10 episodes, but I've kind of really enjoyed it. So it makes me smile. So I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah, no, it's great to hear. Good to speak to another podcaster, somebody in the EP space. And you've obviously delved into EP and also into just general support, coaching, mentoring, and sort of life skills. So it's really great that what you're doing. So I hope you don't stop.
Well, I think if it stops making me smile, then that's sort of an interest. That's when I'll stop. And again, I didn't go out and plan these things. It wasn't like I sat down 10 years ago and said, oh, this is exactly what I'll be doing in my life at this moment in time. In fact, what I'm doing now, I never dared to imagine. It never even crossed into my mind. It wasn't any real intentional thought process. I kind of fell into it. And then it became something quite intentional with the rebellion.
What you intended initially, did anything come to fruition? Or you didn't know what you intended once you graduated and you sort of started your journey initially?
There's been a few pivotal moments in my journey which kind of set me on a different pathway. I think as a 17-year-old kid, you're like, hey, I want to do exercise rehab, exercise science. I'm going to work with football teams. I'm going to end up going to the Olympics and being a strength and conditioning coach. So you have all these mindset about that because you didn't know any other way. What exercise science was very elite sport, was very athletic. And I hate to, it's that cliche of you don't know until you see it. And we didn't see as a profession anything else. Right. So yes, I did end up working for sports teams and football teams and doing rehab for sports. And I just hated it. Actually, I thought it was, you know what, Aaron?
Was it the weekends and all volunteering and no pay? Was that your experience?
A little bit of but I actually managed to turn it into a business. So I was getting paid, fortunately. I think I just found it really boring in the end. It didn't live up to my expectations of creativity and adaptability and excitement. It was kind of prescribing the same old programs, strength and conditioning, and it was very mundane to me. That was my very personal experience. And that's when I found myself working more into the personal training space, which allowed me, I feel like, a lot more creativity to work with very individual people and ask them, what is it that you really want from all of this? And when you're working with a team environment, it's kind of, the same job. They all have to run. If you're working football, they all have to have certain aspects when it comes to their physical capacity. And it just got mundane and boring for me. And then I found that workers' comp is just better than television. And it does, workers' comp and working in compo, actually, it really fuels my need to be around people, but also fulfills the general curiosity that I have for human beings. I think humans are just really exciting and complex. And I just love to listen to stories and hear stories and tell my story. And I found a job where that intersection of those two things have just kind of met. So I get paid to do something that I'm really curious about. And so that's why I don't think I ever really get too bored with it.
Yeah, great. That sounds great. You mentioned something before as well about going into personal training, and you could sort of really speak to the people. And to be honest, as EPs, personal training gets a bit of a bad rap because everybody that graduates says, and I did the same thing, is, oh, I'm not a PT, I'm an exercise physiologist. And then when I went into business, I realized that, you know what, nobody at the time really knows what an exercise physiologist is. But if I bridge the gap and said, yes, I'm a PT, but I do this, this, and this, they're like, oh, okay, I understand it. So I had to meet them where they're at as far as their knowledge. And then, bring them along for the ride and say, well, what are the differences? What are the similarities? Because at the end of the day, I started off being a personal trainer when I was studying, and the skills are transferable. I know that any of the team that I've got on, and they did PT before, or they worked in some form of real customer service, the method is the same. It's maybe just the treatment or the actual prescription that might differ, but how to deal with people, how to understand people, and what you're doing with them, and trying to navigate a solution to their goals that takes into account the reality of their situation is the same. Whether it's rehab, PT, or another form, it's dealing with humans and getting them to their goals through a physical approach and sometimes a not physical approach. So I think it gets a bad rap, but I don't think it needs to be the case.
Yeah, I think we're so hung up on titles is the problem.
I was, not anymore.
Yeah, I think as society in general, when you ask anybody to introduce themselves, I think a lot of the time they lead with what they do for work. And I've had sort of a reckoning over the past many years as I've been sort of growing up, and I've got a couple of kids now. And I asked myself, wait a second, I am not an exercise physiologist. I am Rhea Mercado.
Yeah.
And Rhea Mercado is many, many things. And I think for me, what really changed my attitude towards work and life in general is when I had this amazing realization. I actually read a book by Sarah Jaffe called Work Won't Love You Back. Now, put that in the show notes. I might have misquoted that, but it's Sarah Jaffe,
We'll
Work
look
Won't
it up.
Love You Back. Yeah. And she talks specifically about education professionals and also healthcare professionals, and how I think the purpose that we have is who we are is a healthcare professional. And when I consciously detached myself from being an exercise physiologist, I felt like my whole world just opened up to me. And so now I look at the work that I do. Obviously, we want it to be meaningful. That's important. And we want to try to create change. But for me, it's not the purpose of my life. If that makes sense. I think to me, it's meaningful, yes, but my day job and what I do for work effectively just make sure that I can meet my survival needs. It's an exchange of my time and my skill set for cash. And what that cash allows me to do is, pay the mortgage, feed my kids, go snowboarding, go wakeboarding, all the things that I actually enjoy doing. And so I think it's that reframing of work. What actually is work to you? And how does that fit into the greater person? How does that fit into Rhea Mercado as a whole person?
Yeah, look, I used to be hung up on a title when I first graduated. No, I'm an exercise physiologist. I'm not X, Y, and Z. But then when I was starting in the business, when I said, I'm an exercise physiologist, I'm not a PT, as an example, people say, oh, that's not who I'm looking for, because they didn't understand anything different. They're like, oh, I want a PT that helps with my shoulder, or want a PT that helps with this injury. It's like, well, what you're looking for is an exercise physiologist, but they don't know what an exercise physiologist is. So when it was the difference between, is this client going to see me? I probably am the best person to see them or not, then no, whatever you call me is fine. As long as I still stay within my scope of practice of treating in the appropriate fashion, it's no problem if they call me a PT, a coach, a trainer, a person, Aaron, dickhead, whatever they want. Probably after a few sessions, if they've got that rapport, obviously, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day. I don't know what I am or what I'm called, and I'm okay with any of it, but I really dropped the title and the pretense when it made a difference to, well, can I actually grow my business or not? So there was something on the line financially, professionally, and it decreased my stress levels when I dropped the title, because that's just how other people understood. I can't tell them how they should understand. I need to meet them where they're at and bring them along for the ride.
That's right. And it's almost also living up to that expectation as well. Is once you put a title on something, once you label something, then there is a clear expectation of what that service delivery actually looks like. Right. So when you say I'm an exercise physiologist, people are going to expect exercise. And what does that view of exercise actually look like to them? And that can be scary to some people. You're like, oh, you're going to make me run on a treadmill. You're going to make me throw weights. We're looking at, oh, you're going to make me do CrossFit. All those types of sort of labeling that we use. And ultimately what it comes down to is human connection. It doesn't matter. I'm actually a really terrible prescriber. So I'll get by. Don't get me wrong. Like, I haven't hurt anybody, and I certainly haven't, killed anybody in my prescription, but I'm not very good at it. Though I still manage to get results. And why is that? Is because my fundamental superpowers or my attributes is that I can just get along with most anybody that I speak with. I can really try to understand what this person needs at that exact moment in time and then help them fulfill that need. So I think one of my good friends, James Ellis, actually calls it premature articulation. And what it is, it's when you're giving information to people and they're not ready for it. And we do a lot of that in compo. We do a lot of that in treatments. And sometimes it is just shutting the hell up, shutting the fuck up and listening.
Exactly.
And they're getting them to actually tell you what they want and what information they need at that time. Or you as a practitioner explicitly asking them, what do you actually want to know right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as my career's gone on, less is more. And I use a lot less jargon and just speak very succinctly, directly. And I do find that people that have just graduated or a little earlier, there is a lot of, I need to show you everything within the first session and go from there. But as I get older or more experienced, I think less is more. And you do learn that, and you do need to have some element of learning that along your own journey, because it doesn't matter if someone tells you that. You do need to have those experiences of, oh, look, I did use less words, less cues, less support, and had them work it out partly on their own, and it actually worked better. Okay, I'll use that as future knowledge to develop that. And yeah, I don't necessarily call myself an exercise physiologist these days because I don't treat that often, maybe about 10% of time, if that. There's obviously a lot of cogs in the business of Fit Clinic and everything that I'm doing. So my team is probably better than me, is better than me. I won't say probably, is better than me at clinical side of things. I've had the newest team members telling me, oh, these are the new protocols. This is what we're doing. This is how I'm doing. I'm like, oh, really? Okay, good. I'm glad you're the one seeing them, because I'm less in the weeds, so to speak, as far as dealing with people clinically, because my brain is sometimes with the client, sometimes not. And it wouldn't be fair if I was with clients and my brain wasn't in it. It wouldn't be fair to be the one treating them. So I'm often in the background, upstairs, away from the gym floor, and letting the team do what they're best at and probably do what I'm best at these days.
Yeah, and I think, as you mentioned, I'm very much about generational collective knowledge. And people like us I like to refer to us as elder millennials. And I think people like us really need to pass on this knowledge, the things that we've learned along the way. And now, whether or not it's up to whomever we're speaking with to take that on board or not, that's not up to us. That's not our decision, I think. But where our responsibility lies is to just pass that information on. And the most powerful way to do that is exactly what we're doing today, which is storytelling. If we just tell our stories, then people will pick things up as they need to and then learn from that as well. But I think, to your point though, Aaron, is the next generation so amazing. Like they have the world literally at their fingertips. They want to know what the most latest research is on anything. They just tap it into a little phone and it's up there. And so I see now my role as more of a learner than someone who's a teacher. Again, it's very much about that curiosity around these human beings who have grown up in a very different world than I have. And I think this is where we talk about, rebellion and Threesticks, about being very much about collective knowledge and pooling that knowledge and building a library of people. Because I gave myself a challenge about 6 or 7 months ago where I said, instead of Googling for an answer, I'm going to see if there's somebody in my phone or in my network that I can just call and ask. And it's been beautiful. It's actually been really great. It's really, I can connect the dots by connecting with humans. And it's been a really amazing time that I've spent over those last few months, 6 or so months doing that. And what you learn is amazing. But I think there has to be a reciprocal nature of learning as someone who's a bit older and a bit, the elder millennial, and also teaching, because in the end, connecting humans and telling stories, you can't help but learn from one another. You might not understand each other, but it's going to actually broaden your perspective on the world and what that looks like through all the lenses.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the hardest thing for generations moving forward is there's so much information out there, knowing what's appropriate information, knowing what you should throw away and what is crap and what is solid. And that applies to some of the clients that come in as well. They're like, hey, I saw, and normally I know where it's going. I saw this propaganda thing on Netflix, and I call it, propaganda documentary, some of them. Or, I saw this thing on TikTok, and all right, because the social media algorithm and the Netflix algorithm and everything, that rewards controversy and black and white answers, when often certain answers in our field are shades of grey. So most of my good answers are, it depends, or it's most likely this, or possibly this, but it's never, it's definitely, this is the best and only thing for you. It's, these are the options. We've chosen this one because this is the best for you based on these circumstances. And it's not a cookie cutter approach to everybody, but the social media algorithm supports the controversy and supports the black and white answers and don't do this, definitely do this. But if you look across the whole algorithm, you'll find you shouldn't do anything, basically. So it's about finding what's important and what's useful, and then throwing away what doesn't fit with you.
Yeah, and I think what I picked up on there with what you were talking about is about choice and credibility of information. And what's really interesting is I've really discovered that as a practitioner, as a compo rehab consultant, as a teacher, mentor, workshopper, all those things that, I am. What I've realized is there's an analogy that I always give to people that I work with, which is I'm like a sushi train, right? So let's imagine you're sitting in a sushi train and all these options actually go past you and you need to make a decision which one suits your taste. You might be allergic to fish. I don't know. Your boyfriend or girlfriend or your husband or whoever might like salad and you hate it. Whatever your normal biases are towards the choices that you're making kind of will come into play. And as practitioners, we need to remember that we will never persuade somebody to make a choice that is counterintuitive to them. Humans are irrational, like we're really irrational. We make decisions based on bias and not based on reason. There's a lot of research about behavioral economics and behavioral and social behaviors about that and how irrational we actually are. And I think where practitioners, especially early ones, we're like, we know the right way. Like we've seen the research, we know it, we've proven it through science, but you haven't proven it through science for this one very particular patient who might have 100 other biases, which were different to the subjects in that one particular study. And so going back to the analogy of a sushi train, is my job is to provide them with all the information as much as I possibly can, let that roll past them, and then let them pick up what they think is the right choice for them. Now, whether or not I think it's the wrong choice for them, that's not really up to me. That's not my responsibility, because a part of empowering and educating is providing them with the information. Now, what I can say to them is, you know what, if you pick up that salmon, my experience with salmon is that most people have liked it and it's kind of worked for most people, but it's up to you. I've noticed that people don't really like to eat, I don't know, the eel because it just doesn't fit for them. And that's been my clinical experience, or that's been my professional experience. But ultimately, we have to provide them with information and let them make a decision and let them make a choice. It's not up to us to choose what's right or wrong for our practitioners. And that's really freeing when you look at it that way, that it's not my responsibility.
Yeah,
Right?
well, people are going to use their own biases, their environment, their culture, all of
100%.
these things are going to matter. And using the sushi training example, there is no reason why one bit of food is any different to another. It's just, oh, I haven't grown up on that delicacy or that dish, so therefore it is odd to me. But if you go to a different part of the world, like I know I'm getting a bit on a tangent, really
I started it.
breakfast
It's
type
okay.
food. Breakfast type food is only relevant to certain Western cultures. I just came back from Vietnam and it's not really breakfast food and lunch. It's just all food. And obviously being in Western Sydney, half my family is Vietnamese. My kids are half Vietnamese. I'm exposed to a few different cultures and different experiences growing up. But I always grew up, having one type of bias, one type of this is breakfast, lunch, dinner. These are my experiences. And then you sort of blend into others' experience and sort of find yourself somewhere in the middle and go, well, there's no reason why this needs to be the case. It's just experience, exposure, culture, and our own biases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And preference and comfort levels. There's so many different things. And that's why I think when we talk about individual prescription or even precision medicine or personalized medicine, it actually it goes far beyond. If you really want to personalize it, you need to understand you need to try to understand the fundamentals of the human being that you're actually working with. And so I'll give you a really good example. I was doing a functional capacity assessment with somebody, and there was a very interesting piece and a pivotal piece of information that was left out. And so we went to this facility and it had a mezzanine level, and he walked in and completely broke down. Like actually physically was shaking, started crying, was very unwell. And I thought, oh my goodness, like what is going on here? I sat him down and I realized that part of his injury was actually in the exact same setting as this facility facility that we were in, and it actually had just triggered all this information. And so when we're looking at prescribing for people, then from then on, the recommendation is to be, he can't be in a gym setting. If you're going to prescribe and personalize this, this is probably something you need to look at. But unfortunately, we didn't pick up on it. Like, I read through a background and it didn't even occur to me, oh, maybe that might not be the right place to do this assessment. And that's whoops, like shit, I should have really picked up on that.
Hopefully you learned that for future, and that's part of it. It's not ideal
100%.
for the client.
No. And
You did learn, and
yep, it's a
probably you didn't
whoopsie.
go back there.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
whoopsie situation, but then sharing that story with the case managers, with the injury management advisors, with other consultants, it's just a little piece of information that they've got to go, okay, maybe I should consider that from here on. Is location,
Yeah.
is it
Well,
appropriate?
learning from other people's failures is the least expensive way to do things. When it's trial and error for yourself, it's expensive and all time consuming to trial and error, and it takes a lot longer. But if you can learn from other people's trial and error, I guess we'd call it, it sets you on a better path. And that's why, you obviously you've got courses with your knowledge, and I've got some things going on as well. And we're trying to share our successes and failures to say, well, this is what didn't work for me, and this is why. If this is your similar experience, then maybe don't go down this path. Maybe this is a better path for you based on your circumstances, because you're going down a similar path. But, we can only do what we can do, and we sometimes have to learn by doing ourselves.
Yeah, and I think also we need to know when to quit, right? I think we need to know when our work is done. And I think that's definitely something that I've spoken a lot about, is knowing where your limitations are and understanding where your skill set is probably just as important. And I think all of this rounds off to burnout and attrition and presenteeism and all those other things that we've been hearing about over the last, many couple of years now. And the biggest problem we're having is that, especially in compo, so if I can just go back to compo, is you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
We always, when we see a new grad come into compo, we're like, all right, bets on 3 months. They're either going to make it. If you can make it past the first 6 months, you're probably going to stay around for a long time.
So it's either all or nothing in the space, is it?
It is. Like, we've tended to find that. And people do hop in and out of compo a lot, or people do switch in thinking, hey, the grass is always greener, right? And so there are a lot of people that, like someone like me who's moved out from the clinical space. So I don't do any more clinical. I'm not a treatment provider. That's why being an exercise physiologist kind of doesn't really fit into the way that I would identify myself professionally, because I don't treat. But again, that's because, society or association, ESSA, whoever, that's kind of what we're thought to think that an exercise physiologist should be. And that rounds us off back to those labels and the expectations of what we are. And so I think it's really interesting to look at that and go, oh, okay, well, what's going on? What's going on there? But I think going back to this idea of attrition and burnout and people leaving the industry is because they kind of just got jack of it. Here we are, we got into healthcare because we wanted to help people, right? So as a 17-year-old, even as you ask any allied health professional, why did you get into it? They'll say, I want to help people. I want to help people. And then they move into this scheme of per compensation and personal injury, which actually actively prevents them from doing. And why that is a whole nother conversation for a whole other time.
Yeah.
Though what I've been trying to skill people in is saying, here are the guidelines, learn the rules of the game, because there aren't that many rules. And if you can learn how to work within the framework and then marry that up to where your ideologies are and where your hard lines are as a person and as a professional, you will thrive in compo. You will absolutely thrive in injury management. You will thrive in compensation. And let's be frank, that's where the money is at. Look, I know you guys from a clinical perspective just can't compete when it comes to salaries. We're looking at injury management advisors upwards of 100K, 150K walking in. You can't, that's just not possible. And that's why I think a lot of people are moving on, is because they look at the money and they go, oh, it's amazing. Look at all that cash I've got. But you learn very, very quickly that everyone has a price. And you learn very quickly what that price is and what your value and what your time is worth. And I have a very personal, a very personal story around what kicked me off into doing what I do now. And it was that moment of burnout. Was that moment of literally sitting on my couch and just bursting into tears. And I had no idea why that was, Aaron. It was like, wait a second. My job is great. I'm making really good money. I've got a great kid. Husband's wonderful. Family's great. Like, what the fuck is it? What is going on? And I realized that there was just such a disconnect between the want to help people and then the ability to do that. And so we tend to call it it's the mission of healthcare balanced with the margin of business and how those two interact.
It is definitely the challenge, and that's part of the reason why I've moved away from the clinical. Like, I went into it the same reason, I want to help people, but for me to be able to help people, I help my team and make sure that the business is successful for then the team to help other people. Secondary, I'm still helping the people, but I'm doing it by supporting those in front of me because I tried to do it all and I have done it all. And up until recently, I went to Vietnam and I was like, well, I've set everything up, everything's fine. But mentally, I found it hard to get out of I need to treat because this is what I do to keep busy. So it was more a me thing. And I had this discussion with one of my team members this morning saying, like, some of this is on me, that I just found that I've been an exercise physiologist for so long to not be an exercise physiologist and then be a business owner, an entrepreneur. And people walk in and they call me the boss, and I hate it because to me, a boss is like that negative connotation of you're telling people what to do. I'm giving someone the framework to say, look, this is how our business helps people and this is the culture that we have. But within that, you're free to make your own decisions, but here's the framework and move forward. So I've found that the best way for me to help people and still do what I want to do is not be the front-facing part of the business for the clients, but to be more behind the scenes. And I'm still there, and I actually feel more comfortable to go down and say, like, speak to everyone and hi, introduce myself. And, if there's anything you need, let me know. And I feel better about that instead of walking downstairs and like, oh, I'm hoping, because the stress of running a business, lockdown, all these things of being like, how are we going to operate? How are we going to do things? Coming out is sometimes it shows on my face. And I'm like, I'm sure I'm smiling. And then I look
I'm
at
smiling on
something
the
like,
inside.
oh, I wasn't actually smiling. Yeah, I was too upfront with what was going on, and I was vacant maybe. And I'm like, no, this is not the best way to go about it. So when I went to Vietnam, set everything up, went, look, I trust my team explicitly to do the job that they want to. And then it was almost a disconnect for me. I was like, look, I'm in another country. I'm halfway around the world. I can't do anything. And you know what? I came back and things probably ran better from a floor point of view. And maybe I wasn't that roadblock of trying to get involved in the weeds, so to speak, on day to day. Just let them do what they're best at. And then I support them best by running the business. And then by default, I can go home and see my kids a couple of hours earlier. Because before now, I was getting up, I'd leave the house, it was dark, I'd get home, it was dark again, and I wasn't seeing my kids. Now I've got 2 5-year-olds and an 8-year-old. And I'm like, look, I need to be home a little bit more often to do that because they've got more needs as they grow up. One's got cerebral palsy. There's like more needs that we have at home. I'm like, look, I need to probably do better across all of it. So I need to just trust the people. But that was probably more on me to get myself out of thinking I'm just an exercise physiologist, that I'm more entrepreneur, business owner. And there's probably a point in people's careers, business ownership, that they go through that transition of exercise physiologist to business owner. And I've got to change my mindset. And it was on me rather than the team.
Yeah, it's an interesting mindset, that, because I think, again, I go back to very much it's kind of the natural pathway, right? It's you're a good practitioner, you get more work, you can't handle the work. And so you bring somebody else on, you hope that they do the work as well as you do. And then you bring somebody else on and hope and then you find yourself working at the business, not in the business and not the core of maybe what you were doing, but rather managing a business and being a business owner, as you mentioned. I've actually gone full circle, Aaron. So I've done all that and then came back down to effectively being a rehab consultant, doing the day-to-day rehab consultant job. I mean, for the people that I work with, I'm actually the lowest on the totem pole. I'm right next to the person who just started rehab yesterday. That's effectively my job title, is rehab consultant. There's no management requirements. And why that is, and this is, I think, one of the questions that you kind of talked about is kind of, hey, what are some of the things that we want to impart onto the future generation? And I think it's about reverse engineering. It's about asking yourself, and we speak about this. And so Thrive by Threesticks is one of my mentoring programs. And we talk about the dream, right? And we talk about what is the actual dream. And for me, the dream is to choose what I do with my time, being able to choose what I do with my time, be able to go snowboarding whenever the heck I want. And anyone who knows me knows I'm just in love with snowboarding. And then also not to be able to take shit from anybody. And so when I think about the decisions that I make, when I think about the work that I do, it's always asking myself, is it getting closer to those 3 things? Is the work I'm doing getting me closer? Right. And so again, we go back to the work is just to meet your survival needs. Once I've met my survival needs, then my time is mine. That's when I can go and do the Intelligent Rebellion and run a podcast. And I think there's always that idea of when is enough? And I've heard you on some of your episodes talk about the shiny things. And what the dream allows me to do is to regulate that and to ask myself, oh, cool, look, shiny thing. That's amazing. I want that. but how is it bringing me closer to choosing my own time, to going snowboarding whenever I want, and also not having to take crap from anybody?
Mm.
And if it doesn't fulfill those three things, then that's a shiny thing that I just can't have. As much as I want it, it's actually not purposeful. It's not meaningful. It doesn't make any sense. And so I think for anybody who's going into business, reverse engineer your business. Number one, what is the exit strategy? How are you going to get out of this business? Because I think that's often an afterthought, right?
Yeah.
Is,
You,
oh,
you
crap.
don't,
I'm in,
yeah,
but
well,
I
you
want to
don't
leave.
have to exit.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to exit, just having it set up to exit
Yeah.
just means that it's a better functioning business because
Yeah.
you could if you wanted to, but you choose not to.
Yeah.
So it just means that you've got all your ducks in a row, systems, procedures all
Yeah.
set up, and people know what they're doing, and you don't need to exit. And important thing of what you said before, like you've gone full circle, is showing that a certain direction doesn't work for somebody. You don't need to keep going up the totem
Oh,
pole. You
gosh,
said that
yeah.
you're at a position in the totem pole you're happy with, that's fine. You like to do your other activities, and that sort of fits in with your lifestyle and everything where you're satisfied and happy. So people don't need to go from practitioner to senior practitioner to business owner to whatever else they want to do. You don't have to. Like, I've got a friend of mine that's a business owner. He owns another exercise physiology company, but he actually hires other people to do the management because he's like, look, I own the company, but I really like doing the treating, and that's where I want to be.
Yep.
I should actually get him on the podcast, but he prefers to treat. So he has other people run the business side because he goes, I'm not good with that. I really like treating, but he has the business. So he doesn't need to step away from that, but he has other people to do that because that's what he
And
wants.
by all means, if that's what you want to do, is take a good run up that totem pole, go for your life. If that's what's going to make you happy, that's what's going to make you smile, that's going to help you fulfill your dreams, go for it. And this is what we talk about, that real choice. It's humans are humans and everybody's a bit different. But again, to your point though, is that whole idea of adaptability and flexibility. It's if I look back at my evolution of my career, but also as a person, I've changed so much. And so you would expect that. I mean, evolution is naturally human. We adapt. That's kind of what it is. And the Harvard Business Review actually said that adaptability is probably the greatest attribute and skill in any organization today. Not process, procedure, it's adaptability. And this ability to, and being able to do that is actually really pivotal now for any workforce, anybody, any human. You don't adapt, you die.
Absolutely.
And just basic biology as well. But yeah, I think, to the point of the dream and just really, and look, you're going to come up against, when you're doing something like what I'm doing, which is Intelligent Rebellion, we do stick our neck out. I remember when I first started to launch it, I remember saying to my husband, I turned to him and I said, okay, am I ready for career suicide? Like, am I ready to give up everything that I know and I love because I'm going to start this message? And that was a real conversation that I had to have with myself. That you spoke about, there's no plan B. For me, there's always a safety net, because I think the other sort of tip I would give anybody who's listening is, it would be, create a really good safety net underneath yourself. Because the reason why I've been able to do all the things that I've been able to is I know that if I fall, I'm going to be caught. And whether I'm caught by friends or family, my own industry mentors, anybody around my community, I can take those risks. Like you wouldn't bungee jump without a cord. That's ridiculous, right? It's the same thing. I don't take these risks without knowing that I'm going to land fairly as safely as I possibly can. So I do have a plan B. I think it's important to have a plan B. Now, I don't want to I don't want to enact plan B. Oh my God, that's like the worst case scenario for me. God, no, not plan B, but it is there in place just in case. So
Yeah, no, and that's fine. And that's why I like speaking to different people, because I say, oh, I don't have a plan B, so plan A better work. But then you're saying, I've got a plan B and that works for me. So that's okay. And that's why it's important to have different people with different experiences, because people that we're speaking to, they won't want the same experiences as me. They might want more experiences that you've had, or vice versa. So it's an important step. And when I say I don't have a plan B, we have diversified, we have changed and added on services and made sure that we're a more rounded service, and we've changed how we've operated, but still kept our core values. So we have changed plan A, but when I say that, plan A has to work, because at the end of the day, I'm looking at, well, I need to educate, feed my children, feed my family,
That's right.
and that's what's going to work. So
Survival
that's why plan A has to work,
Yep.
because it's the survival needs. And I want to, just like every parent wants to do, they want to give their kids a better, more resourced experience than what they had, whatever it turns out to be, but also trying to not make them entitled, and sort of find that right balance of the experiences versus, understanding and being empathetic and being basically a good
Mm.
human mixed with resources to support them or to have them excel in whatever direction they end up wanting to head in. And that's why Plan A for me has to work.
Oh, I hear you. But yeah, I think, yeah, my journey has been a really interesting one. And I'm, yeah, very happy to speak to anybody about it all. And yeah, it's very interesting. The thing you talk about is what the future is. It's really bright. I think the future is bright for the world in general. I actually am a part of a think tank called Future Crunch. And a
Nice.
part of our mission, per se, is to try to change the stories that we tell ourselves. And we try to put out good news into the world. We're not futurists. So we talk about all the really cool, amazing stuff across science, technology, conservation is actually happening right now. And when we're filled, and going back to the whole algorithm, social media, I think we're very much full of information that is really negative, or the world's going to collapse tomorrow and everything's dying. And if you look on the other side, if you just peek around the corner, you will see there's some fantastic things that is happening in the world right now. And so that's a part of my work, is with that team, and basically standing on stages and talking about dancing robots and like just really cool stuff that's happening, and stem cell research and CRISPR and all those really cool biotech stuff that, again, we can park and have another conversation about all the really cool sciencey stuff.
There's definitely a lot
Yeah,
of cool stuff going on, but they don't speak a lot about it in, mainstream
of course not.
news and things that you come across. So
Mm.
I found that much happier human when I just avoided all
With
mainstream news articles. Like there was a period of time for 12 months that I was on the way to work, like listening to the 5-minute news update to see what I needed to know and what I was
Mhm.
going to be told for the day. Because obviously operating a business over the last couple of years, I needed to know daily when
Yeah.
the things were changing. So I had to know what I needed to do for that day, or what I needed to change about how I operated
Mhm.
for that day. Because we'd have a bunch of clients like, oh, so I've just read the news report. What does this mean? I don't know. We just looked at it at the same time as you did. So give us 10 minutes and we'll
Just
get
give me
back
a
to you.
second. Yeah.
So, but then once I go, you know what, I'm not listening to the news or whatever anymore. And I can then seek out what I want and
Mhm.
listen to podcasts, audiobooks, or other variations. And it made me a lot happier just focusing on the
Yeah,
positives rather
yeah,
than,
Aaron, and I think we're not saying ignore the problems of the world. Like, there really are a lot of problems in the world, but we talk about intelligent optimism, and we
mm,
speak about the acknowledging the problems, but also acknowledging that as humans and as a community, we actually have the ability to change things. We have the resources, the knowledge, the capital to make really big changes. And it's a matter of want. And that's where rebellion really comes in. A very small world, that we're not trying to change the world. Like, I'm very quite acutely aware that I'm not going to change the world. But I think it's once you start having conversations, then we talk about creating change with one story at a time, with one conversation at a time, because you just don't know where that one little conversation might lead to. And I have some amazing examples of that happening in my own world, where I was just talking to people, and now I'm talking to people who are actually in the room that can potentially make some really good changes. And it was just sharing stories. And I think, go out and share your story. Go out, because you're important. I think every voice matters and every story matters. And if you are listening to this, it's just go and find someone and just share your story, and also listen and respect their story as well, because that's all humans are, is a bunch of stories smashed together. Right.
well, we've been able to last as humans for so long because we're social beings,
Hmm.
because we work together, because we've integrated and networked, and that's how we've survived despite not being the strongest, fittest, or fastest thing on the planet. We've got the ability to communicate and network and work as a team, and we should continue to do that and listen and share our stories.
Yeah, I would have been wiped out by the dinosaurs. I'm not quick, fast, or strong. So.
But cumulative total, we can get there as a team. And I
Yeah.
think that's the point I was making. Humans in general aren't the best at anything, but we're pretty good at a lot of things, and we probably have the ability to communicate well to each other and
Mhm.
socialize and work as a team.
Yep.
And that's why we've got to where we are, and we need to do that to continue. So yeah, you've got a few courses going on. You've got your Intelligent Rebellion podcast.
Mhm.
Do you want to share where they can find those things
Yeah,
and look you up?
yeah, definitely. This should probably come out in time, but we are running the Intelligent Rebellion live on the 10th of March. So we kind of finally have bringing everyone together. And again, it's just sharing stories. We're just going to hear from a bunch of different people, bunch of creatives, and learn how to share our own story and write our own story. but also listen to other stories. You can get us at Intelligent, and all our stuff is there. Well, this year, we're actually also putting out a bunch of think tanks, which is really fun. And that's just, again, bringing people together to share stories and maybe hopefully try to create a little bit of change in a very small part of the world. And hopefully that will ripple on to other things. But threesticks.com.au for all the other stuff. But otherwise, just reach out to me. I'm on socials at Rhea Mercs, pretty much everywhere. So
yeah, cool. Definitely. I'll pop that in the show notes, pop it in the description so they'll be able to reach out to you. And yes, the episode will be out before your think tank, so they'll have a little bit of time to jump on your website, catch you on socials, and get to chat to you, and you'll hopefully see some listeners up there.
excellent. Thank you.
You've just listened to another episode of Phys Biz. If you've got some value out of the content, make sure that you like, share, follow, or subscribe. Until next time.